Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Facebook, Instagram family. Thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Back to the World. My brother and my sister's keeper. As we discussed all things Sonetquity. Thank you guys for coming on board this morning. Uh, any music that you may hear in the background, we don't own the rights to. Send your comments, questions, and your likes. Hit us in the boxes down below. For our YouTube page, man, subscribe, like, comment. You know, we're trying to get this thing built. We're trying to get it going, man. Thank you guys for coming on. If there's any donations or anything that you care to share, send those out to Cash App $Tony43. That's Cash App $Tony43. All right. I just viewed two videos, two podcasts, and everything of two gentlemen that I know and I hold close and dearly to my heart, man. There's a father and son. They was on different shows, and the father was discussing transitioning back into society, and he had a guest on, and the gentleman had been incarcerated along with him, and they was talking about basically getting reacclimated, if you will, getting back into the societal mode, what we call the free world. Okay? And the son, Jesse Jr., he was on a radio talk show podcast where they were talking about the gun violence and everything in New Orleans. And I listened to these guys very carefully. Whenever we're talking, we always really kind of pay attention and we give feedback. But I like where both of those subjects and both of those topics were, because they're interconnected, they're linked. Whereas mine is about books, and there's no disconnect there because we're trying to address both of the things that they were discussing through our platform, okay, which is Sonetquity Bookclub. All right, just to delve a little bit into what the father was talking about. He was basically saying that, when you come home, things have changed. Things has changed so much to whereas many years ago, and I've said this oftentimes, that at a time, man, back then, I would be the smartest person in the room, or I would be the smartest person within that circle. Okay, so, then you go to prison, and, you're the smartest guy in that circle, or in that small conference that you may be having. But your information and your education is stale at that point, because the rest of the world is caught up and passed you by. And you have young guys coming in the system. You had young guys coming in the system, man, had 8th grade education. And they were talking about things that I'd never heard before, things that I could never fathom. So then it became, so I stopped talking and started listening. And that's how I was able to keep up with society, right? One of the things I had a problem dealing with was paying for things with credit cards, debit cards. I didn't understand the difference. I understand the difference between debit and credit, but making that translation to what it meant when it came to cards. See, when they say debit, I'm thinking of, I got a debt. So I couldn't understand. And again, whereas in the past, I was the one that was doing most of the teaching and the educating. Well, when I came back to society, man, I would go to Walmart, or I would go to Kroger's or HEB, And I'd stand in line dumbfounded. And I actually found myself having a meltdown a time or two when I was inserting the wrong code and the wrong numbers. And, and still right now today, I have a problem with passwords and everything. So I have to actually write that down. But the crazy thing is, sometimes even when I enter the correct password, it still doesn't let me in. So I get frustrated with that. The gentleman that was on earlier was talking about when he went to get air in his tires. When he went to get air in his tires, the guy told him it cost $2. He couldn't imagine that. He was like, $2? He said, when I left the streets, air in your tires was 25 cents. Now that's crazy, because when I left the street, air in the tires were free. So, it's a time difference. And one thing about it, when you can't close yourself off to education. You can't close yourself off to learning, even if you consider yourself free and you're on the outside. If you lock yourself in and you close out information and everything, for all intent and purposes, you're incarcerated. Okay? For all intent and purposes, you're incarcerated because you're stuck in a time warp while the rest of the world is passing you by, and everybody's looking at you as though you've been on Mars someplace. You were in a time capsule. So that's why it's important to read. It's important to watch informational videos and to learn what's going on in society, the whole bit. The gentleman was talking about, on that particular day when you were released, he was asked, how did he feel? And he said that when he was leaving, he was just so glad to leave and so glad to see his family. And when he got to his family, he hugged and kissed his family. And he said he wanted to cry. He said he didn't, but it was there and he wanted to. And there's nothing wrong with that. My co-defendant, Jesse said that, when he came home, they had a party planned for him. And a welcome home party. And it was going to be a surprise, which it was up until a few hours before the party. And he was overwhelmed because more people had shown up than he could even imagine. Family and everything. Okay, my experience was really, in everything in life there's an experience, but I had nothing to really hang my hat on in that respect. I thank God for being released. I had no one special or in particular to come and pick me up from the bus station, but then I wanted to ride the bus. I wanted to ride the bus because I wanted to absorb being alone initially and experiencing freedom. I know that sometimes when you go off the grid and you try different things and you try to take advantage of or beat the system or circumvent the system, things usually go awry. So I didn't want to take a chance on doing that. I'm riding with somebody else. Maybe we'll have an accident. See, because when you give things a certain kind of energy, it's just like you're wishing for anything that's good. It's just like you're praying for anything that's good. If you're constantly putting bad thoughts out into the universe, then bad things will happen. Because the universe doesn't differentiate for what you ask it for. The universe is a giver. You request it, we're going to deliver it. So if you're constantly if you're constantly having bad thoughts, you're requesting bad things, you get bad results. So I didn't want to take any chances like that. I had no special lady, so I had no one to come and get me. There was no fanfare. There were no parades. There were no bands. There was no trumpets and drums. I just went straight to the halfway house. I checked in. I got my bump. I got acclimated. A couple of friends and family members did come by to see me, to bring me things that I needed, things that were essential. And then I just kind of dug in. I had a cell phone for the first time. I had a phone for the first time in 25 years. I couldn't go to sleep. I think I may have watched everything on social media at that particular time. I watched movies. I can remember watching the entire episode of the movie that's in Arkansas, Ozark. I watched the entire season. I watched the entire season of Ozark in one night. So, there was no fanfare, but I needed that. I needed that because I needed to console my mind. I needed to console my heart because, it's so easy to think that you can get out and you can resume where you left off. The crazy thing is there was hardly anyone left that I had left in society when I had gone. There was hardly anyone like that. There was hardly anyone that was in my life like that. Everybody had either passed on or moved on, or didn't give a doggone. So that was an experience, and these are things that you have to know how to deal with too. So transitioning was a process. Then I had to take care of all my essential business IDs, Social Security, things of that nature. I had to take care of all that type of stuff. My medical, I had to go for physicals, my driver's license, everything. And although we waited in line for everything that we did inside the system, we had to wait in line out here. It wasn't the waiting in line part that was a problem to me. It was the bureaucracy. There were so many changes. You wait in line waiting for one thing and realize that, you spent all that time in that line, but you should have been in this line over here. And there was no one to guide you. There was not anything referencing this. So frustration started to mount. And, it was a testament. It was a testament, and it was a test of will, right? And as it stands right now, I've been home now coming up on 5 years. And I'll be honest with you, there's still some things that I'm not used to. And my thoughts run through my head, man, like not like a slow creek, but like spring, like a waterfall. I have so many thoughts that rush through my head because they've been bottled up and they've been locked up. And I've had over 5 years of ideas and thoughts, things that I want to say. As we're talking right here, this is not scripted. I'm just kind of letting it rip. And most people that I knew in the past, they were like, man, I would have never thought you'd do a podcast and you're talking to many people. Because most of my life, I've been an introvert. Now, I've been gregarious in certain situations, in certain circles. But for the most part, when I don't know anyone the whole bit, I'll shut up and I'll listen and I'll observe. But now I just got so much to get out. And I'm afraid that when I reach my limit and I get it all out, I'm going to go back into that shell. I hope not, because I enjoy talking to you guys. So that was the video this morning. There's much more to talk about, man, that I could add to that. But save that for another day. But the transitioning thing was somewhat awkward. And everyone experiences something differently. Some people come right out and they can resume physically, but mentally, if you've been in there for a long time and you had to adapt to certain things, you have to deprogram yourself. And I'm going to put it for I know this is not a word, but I'm going to say this for the understanding. You have to unprogram. You have to unprogram yourself. Just to kind of get, because things are done differently here. Things are done at a different pace. Things are done at a different speed. See, going in the system, you're so used to doing things one way, and as my guy said on the other video, see, we were so used to being financially, he calls it financially retarded. And what he's basically saying is that we truly had no understanding of what things cost, because whatever it cost, we were able to pay for it. And when you get comfortable and snugged into a lifestyle like that, you know that somewhere within your means, you have the monies, you have the finances to afford that. But when it comes to a point where you don't have those funds, and like right now, paying bills, I spend the biggest part of my month trying to remember what dates bills are to be paid. I write them down, but then sometimes I forget where I wrote them, and then I'll put little connotations on the side, and then I forget what that was for. So I've had some late charges, if you know what I mean. I've had some late charges because I say, oh, so what was I supposed to do on the 22nd? What was I supposed to do on the 10th? These things happen. So you have to you have to kind of shift gears in a whole bit. In some instances, you got to speed up. In other instances, you got to slow down. So as I'm watching the father's video, the father's podcast, the son podcast comes on, and he's at a radio station, and they're talking about the violence in the streets of New Orleans. And the commentator, the host, was like, New Orleans is a very proud city, and the residents of New Orleans are very proud of their cities. And what he found disconcerting was that if you love a city as much as those that love New Orleans, and you hold in your pride, it's a very proud city, and wherever you go, you brag on that city, and you can't wait to tell people that you're from that city. He said that he was surprised that people didn't try and do more to curtail the violence that happens there, the whole bit. And I can understand that to a degree, but sometimes, again, when you're in a place so long, there's that thing called adaptability. And then you become desensitized. And I'm sure that my comrades and everybody that's out there watching this podcast can attest to, if you've been locked up for a while. It's sad to say, but violence is a means of survival to a degree. If you're not a violent person, then you have to be willing to be violent in order to survive. And you're just not waiting for your number to be called, for your card to be punched. But when that bell rings, you have to answer it. So the city of New Orleans has been violent for so long until people are like, as long as I'm not the one that's out there doing it, and as long as I'm not one who's been affected by it. But it's hard to find anybody in New Orleans who hasn't been affected by a violent act or the loss of a loved one. The loss of a loved one. And, and my guy was saying that, he's lost some family members to the violence and everything. And they wanted to march, they wanted to rally and speak out on the violence, the whole bit. And as he addressed, as he can attest to, is that, see, a lot of the violence in this country, it's from being disenfranchised, if you will. And sometimes it's for lack of resources, jobs, education. And you're going to get in a situation, and keep in mind, if you are a motivated person, and if you are an upwardly mobile person, but you don't have any resources, you don't have any connection, let me tell you something. that energy is restless. So if that energy is restless, you're going to find something to pour it into. Okay? And if you think that you've tried, and keep in mind, if a person only knows 10 positive things, that's all they know, 10 positive things to do. And in the course of their situation, they've done those 10 positive things, but they got the same results. So see, that person doesn't know that there's 11th, 12th, and so on and so forth. Well, now on that 11th opportunity, they're going to pour that energy into something negative. Because they've tried all that they know to come up. So when they couldn't come up that way, the streets are always there. The streets are inviting. And when you see other people that you know, and you feel like you know that they're not smarter than you, but yet they're out here and they're surviving in these streets the whole bit, then I'm going to go out here and I'm going to do that. Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, contrary to popular belief, but everybody that's in the streets, that's hustling the whole bit, they don't want to be there. Not everyone. Many people are truly there, and it's like you having a job, but you can't stay in that job. But that job pays your bills. That job is the cause that your kids can eat. You can clothe them. You have a roof over your head. And you sit back and you look at what you've accomplished with this piece of job that you don't like. It gives you a sense of pride. It becomes a double-edged sword. It's what you call not an anomaly. It's a dichotomy. It's a conundrum. On one hand, you love what you've accomplished and what you've provided for your family. But on the other hand, I hate going and cleaning this, doing that, rubbing this, building that. Let's face it, ladies and gentlemen. I think only about 25 to 30% of the population truly enjoy what they do for a living. All of them may enjoy the proceeds and the benefits on what they've accomplished and things like that. Those are markers. So they're satisfied with that. But you have guys that are lawyers, man, can't stay in law. You have police officers, man, they're there just for the check. They don't want the smoke, to be honest with you. Now keep in mind, of course, you got those who are zealous, corrupt, violent, So you have to, and what Lil Jesse said was that what happens is the people get in the streets and they start making money. Because he had to take his talent someplace where it could be utilized. He couldn't find a place. He had no one to mentor him. He had no one to tell him that maybe he was a great cook and you can be a chef. You're a great artist. Maybe you can go and work for a design company. You're pretty good with your hands with building. You can go and get an apprenticeship to learn how to be a builder. So you had no one to tell you that. So you see your homeboy Joe. Joe's out here serving his community and the whole bit. You feel that's just real easy. That's a buy-sell transaction. It takes no skills. And look at the money Joe's making. And look at what Joe's doing with his money, all this stuff that he has. So you become attracted to that. And let me tell you something. It's called drug business. It's called drug business. Without a seller, there is no buyer. And without a buyer, there is no seller. So you got both of these people are playing different sides of this particular fence. The drug business is just relative. People become addicted to drugs. All right? Now, when you say they're addicted to drugs, you're only thinking about the usury. You're only thinking about that person actually administering or digesting or injecting whatever it is, or inhaling, whatever it may be. But there's that other side. There's the money side. When you start earning this money and you start getting paid this way, guess what? Now you're addicted to the finances of this, because it can give you what you call, and see, and there's this thing we call it financial freedom, right? We call it financial security, right? I call it financial ignorance. It's financial illiteracy, and then you become a financial hostage. And what I mean by that is this. I've experienced it. You want to get away. You truly don't want to do this, but you've made so much money you can't let it go. See, addiction comes in all forms. Who would have ever thought you'd be addicted? You know, sex. We understand what it really does, just for procreation. We understand the biblical term. But it's for affection, it's for union, it's for bonding of a couple, two individuals that love one another, showing your love and what have you. And you would think that if a person would love to do that a lot, right? And if it's with one person, then it's a wonderful thing. But now you are everything, all things sex. I could not imagine how a person can spend, when you used to have to pay to watch the sex videos, or you go to one of those sex shops or whatever, and a guy would pay all of his money on social media, on the internet at the time, or even on, I used to own 1-800 numbers or 1-900 numbers. People will spend hundreds and thousands of dollars just to talk to someone about sex, the whole bit. So you see, you can be addicted to money as well, and you don't ever want to let it go. There were times that if I spent a certain amount of money, I wouldn't feel good until I've made that amount of money to replace that money. It's almost like having a square on a board, like a chessboard or what have you, and you take a piece from one of those squares. Well, you want to put that piece back. So that's what you find yourself doing, and you become hooked and addicted to this. So there is an addiction in money. And what I'm saying is, see, when necessity sends you there, and when you have a people that are downtrodden and underserved, the whole bit, there's no telling what's going to come out of those ashes, man. You know, it can be fame or infamy. So we must be careful about that. So these were the two videos that I watched this morning. Now, what I want to add to that is this. Our company here at Sonetquity, we services both of those conversations, both of those topics, right? We know that transitioning, coming back, many of our sisters and brothers that are returning back from incarceration, we're coming back from the military or what have you, and you know, you get your pension or whatever the situation may be. But that's not enough to help you live, because everybody's living right at the borderline of poverty, right? So when these individuals come home, and when they come home and there's nothing offered, there's nothing given to them, and I don't want to say given to them, but presented to them, they're going to be that person that tried those 10 steps and nothing worked out for them. On their 11th step, they're familiar with the streets. On that 11th step, they're going to the streets. So I don't care how many programs you have telling people to come and learn financial literacy, come and learn about investing, come and learn all of this. If you're teaching a man on how to budget and how to invest, how are you going to do that without the actual product? And that's the finances. So you can't tell a person not to go to the streets and tell them that you're just going to pray for them You have to give them something that's tangible, something that they can sink their teeth into. That's what we have here. We here at Sonetquity, that's what we do. And see, my platform initially, our major platform is network marketing, and here it is right here. To join and earn a commission. And for most of you who've returned from society, from prison, you still have that hustle in you. You still have that drive. You are born natural entrepreneurs because we had to make something out of nothing. And sometimes I think that you don't see the talent in that. Sometimes I think that that's underserved and underestimated. I don't think that we pay attention to seeing what a person's true gifts are. Okay, you have guys that can't read that well, but they understand how to manage people. You have guys that they drive so well, and they drive in such control because they had to do this so they wouldn't get knocked on the highway or whatever the situation may be. And they are great drivers. You have those who are good with math. You can't tell a man to come in out of the dark when you can't show him the light. So here at Sonetquity, that's what we do. But initially, a lot of people were skeptical because the industry has been tarnished. The minds have been whitewashed based on things that society deem illegal or whatever the situation may be. So we've revamped our program, and we still want to give you financial freedom through literacy. We want you don't have to pay $65 to join our book club. All we want you to do is sign up and buy your monthly books from us at www.bookshop.org/shop/Sonetquity. Buy your monthly books from our online bookstore. And we're going to gradually grow together. And see, we're going to walk this together. I'm going to show you guys how to start. You start by purchasing the books. Because you're reading and you're learning. And this is where your freedom is. This is where your growth comes. So now, as you're learning, once you come in and once you believe, and once you realize that we are serious about what we're doing, because I know there's skepticism, but once you feel as comfortable with us as we feel with you, then we will walk you through the earning stages, the earning process. We're handing you a home-based business. We're handing you an opportunity to earn a monthly income, the likes of which some of you have never seen even in your illegal drug business. That's what we're here to do. There's that transition again. And you must understand transition and what it means. Transition means to change. Transition means to become acclimated. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to acclimate you to what we have to offer. And see, there are people that are out here that are living very dysfunctional and very poverty stricken, and they've never had to transition because they've never been in trouble. But they're having very hard times, and that's what we're here for our sisters and brothers. And I don't mean just black. I mean for anybody that's out there in our audience that's paying attention. Anybody that's listening. We want you guys on board. We want you to go out and purchase your books from us. Look, I keep a bevy of books. I love books. That's just what I have out here this morning to show you guys. Go to Sonetquity Book Club. All right? Go and purchase your books at www.sonetquity. I'm wrong. Purchase your books from www.bookshop.org/shop/Sonetquity. And come on board, man. Sign up and purchase your books from our store. And as we build together, we'll tell you what the next steps are. And at the culmination of these steps, you will see that you made the right decision. And now you can be financially viable. And you can do some of the things that you've always dreamt of doing. And you'll be in a better position to take care of your family. And uplift our communities. Thank you guys for coming on board this morning, man. But again, press that like button. Subscribe on YouTube. And if there's any donations, anything that you care to share, send those to $Tony43. That's $Tony43. Thank you guys again, and y'all go out and have a great day. Peace.